Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm pretty good. How are you? How you feeling over there,
Um,
right next
well,
door to me?
obviously, I must be feeling better than Taraji P. Henson. You and I watched the movie Straw, that new Tyler Perry joint, and I said, this would be really good for kind of a deep dive psychoanalysis to.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were doing a deep dive psychoanalysis. Okay, I can
well,
do it. I just
well,
watched it a second
yeah.
ago.
Well, I figured with you, being trained on this for the last 25 years and your experience as a therapist, given that you're a full professor and you literally trained therapists on how to be therapists, you might be able to identify some things that about the film that could be helpful in terms of us processing, whether this is a good movie or a bad movie, if it was helpful or not. Um, Whether or not it was something that we should see or should not see, that kind of thing. First off, okay, so let's just sort of do a general overview. Did you enjoy the movie?
It's not my type of movie. So when I think about this movie, there's so many different layers, boys. A bunch of different
Okay.
layers. First of all, you think about the production, the acting, how people looked on screen, the writing, the storyline, all of that is interesting. Then another layer is that you look at the content of all of the different things. There's a lot that's put into this film in terms of um, just social issues and what it's like being a single Black mom. There's that issue. Then you have to look at sort of the subconscious issue there too. Why do a film like this? What message is Tyler Perry trying to get across in making a film like this? What impact does that have on us as the viewers of this film? So there's a bunch of different layers. You can look at the storyline, you can look at the acting, you can look at the costumes, you can look at what this means for us as the Black community, whether it was a story that needs to be told. There's so many different ways to approach an analysis of this film.
Hmm. Okay, so
That's how I see it.
did you feel like overall, I'm gonna tell you like this, the first few minutes of the movie, I was highly traumatized in the first few minutes of the movie. I saw a lot of,
Mhm.
it was almost like they could have called the movie like the most unluckiest woman in the history of the world. Like they really, I mean, this lady within the first 10 or 15 minutes, and I was kind of taking notes on it. I mean, the universe was giving her the business. I mean, she lost her job. Got her car got crashed into. She got a cop threatened to blow her head off. She what else? She got cussed out by her landlord. Child Protective Services came by and took her baby away from her, and it was a screaming, sad, dramatic, dramatic scene when it happened. Um, just a lot of bad things happened to one person, and you were kind of like, how could a person be this unlucky? In fact, I actually documented this on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, and I said in the first 5 minutes, Taraji has been cussed out by the landlord, lost her job, hit by a car, uh, had a cop threatened to kill her, lost her child. I mentioned that. Got evicted. I forgot about that. She came home and all her stuff was out in the front porch, got robbed, and then she murdered two people. Um, what do you think? Is that? I mean, is that like how healthy is that for us to see that on screen? I mean, is that like, oh yeah, this is a typical Black experience? Is that? I mean, is that what's going on here? Like, what did you? How did you feel when you saw all this trauma dump? It reminds me of love bombing. How you talk about love bombing, right? The opposite of love bombing. Like the universe is doing the exact opposite. Like the universe is just crapping on you. Um, how do you think a person would feel watching this, especially if they can identify with Taraji?
Okay, so you're speaking to how realistic is this really going to be that this could actually happen to one person in one day? How realistic is it? Watching the film, I had a hard time personally getting into just the whole storyline because I kept thinking this is not realistic for me. It just didn't, to me, I'm just like, they don't do that in schools. Like, this sort of thing doesn't kind of make sense that all of this would happen in one day. Where'd you go? You disappeared on
I'm
me.
here. When I step away, baby, you're supposed to keep talking. Keep going.
Okay, but this is
You're
real
holding
talk.
it down when I step away. I'm just grabbing my phone. Continue, please.
Okay, grab your phone. But it just that I feel like I'm talking to you and then you disappear. And I'm like, where did he go? I got to
I
talk to
know.
somebody.
Go ahead, baby. Keep
Okay, I'm
talking.
talking to the audience. So that's the thing. It's like, how realistic is this film? And so for the viewer to see this, I'm not certain how everybody reacted to that, but I just kind of felt like this couldn't possibly happen in one particular day. Like a lot of things like didn't seem to add up. I worked in schools for a really long time. I don't know school systems that deal with this. I know about from my experience, it was hard for me to connect where I was just like, wait, I worked in schools. If a child is sent to school and that child hasn't eaten, that child's clothes are dirty. We had washer and dryers in our school. We provided clean clothing because we understood the students and the households from which they come from. Those Black women that I worked with on the south side of Chicago in those high schools loved those little kids and made sure they had food, made sure they had clothing. So it was hard for me to connect with that because I had firsthand experience in those systems. So it just didn't really, for me, it just didn't really fall. Now, it could be I went into the movie already having the feelings that I had about Tyler Perry and his writing ability. So I'm just giving it, this is kind of like my raw sort of reaction to how realistic this whole thing was. Is it possible that this Black woman has absolutely no support system in her life? There's no way for her to cultivate and find this. Seems like she had a mom that was very supportive. So those are the things where I was just like, why didn't she call her mom? You know, why did she call her mom at the end of the film? You probably missed that part because
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I tried to get through it, and I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate the idea of telling stories that need to be told. And it's really interesting. I think Tyler must say this a lot because that's what he did say to me when we talked on the phone that time years ago. And I like that, but the problem to me was I was not sure how healthy it is for Black people to just be re-traumatized, right? For you to just be consistently reminded of how terrible it is to be Black, how terrible it is to be a single mom, how terrible it is to be a Black woman, and I almost sort of, I think when I see that, when I see pain, I want to help stop the pain. When I see pain, I don't want to swim in it because I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do. And so, what I wanted to do was share just a little bit of research on this that's out there,
okay.
so that people, and I want to get your take on this. I'm going to just lay it out for you. You're the expert. You're a licensed therapist. You're a full professor of social work. You've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm going to lay out a theory, and I want you to just color it in. I'm going to draw the lines, and if you have nothing to say, then that's fine. But I just wanted to lay it out for you to hear your perspective. So first there's something called the vicarious trauma theory. By McCann and Perlman from 1990. And the core idea is that when you watch traumatic events, even if they're fictional, that can lead to emotional residue called vicarious trauma, especially in people with a shared identity or lived experience. So if you see violence against women who look like you, it can trigger deeper psychological stress, empathy overload, and trauma mimicry. Now I know you've got a certification in trauma, so I'm sure you have something to say about that. Did you want to color that in for us?
Yeah, well, I mean, as helping professionals, you always need to have supervision, and you always need for people that you can relate to and can talk to about your cases so that you can kind of understand how when you're dealing and treating people who have experienced a lot of trauma, and suppose you deal with somebody who was assaulted in a way, and you walk outside your door and you're scared that you're going to get assaulted. So that was the vicarious trauma. You start behaving as if the assault happened to you just by working with somebody in a clinical context, working with someone who have been assaulted in a certain way, and you can walk around and have PTSD symptoms. So it's vicarious trauma. The trauma never happened to you, but because you're empathetic and you're really trying to help your clients, you can vicariously kind of catch that other person's experience and walk around as if you were traumatized. So that's something in the helping profession that can happen. So thanks for bringing that up. But I do want to make another point.
Now, what about the wait? You talked about the helping profession, though. I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's
about
used
just
in helping professions.
now. Here's what I want to. The point I want to. The question I want to ask you about this
Uh-huh.
is, a lot of Black women are in the helping profession, right? Like, I want everybody in the chat, give me a yes
Uh-huh.
if you feel like you are, sort of serving as a social worker for a lot of people. Some of y'all are somebody's bank, somebody's
Mhm.
caregiver, somebody's provider, protector. So do you think that this is one of these things where, let's say you are both in you're giving care to others and you also are an empath, would you say vicarious trauma is more likely to affect individuals who care about other people? And so you care about this character. Like, movies are designed to make you care about the character. I'm wondering if that vicarious trauma is more likely to affect those individuals. Speaking of, not even speaking of people that get paid to do this for a living, I'm talking about people that are just watching a movie. What do you think?
Okay, so you're referring to contagion. So there's an emotional contagion that's separate from vicarious trauma. Emotional contagion is what happens when you catch somebody else's emotions. So if you're dealing with people who are chronically sad, or if you're working around people who are maybe depressed or have these symptoms, if they're unhappy, you can be more vulnerable to catching other people's emotions. So that's not vicarious trauma, that's emotional contagion. That's a whole separate thing. And you're right, in pink collar jobs such as like nurses and social workers and therapists, those are called pink collar jobs because it's highly feminized. Like, a lot of women work in those types of jobs. So that's what you're referring to, those pink collar jobs where you're serving. And some of it is socialized. We're socialized, as women, to want to give and to help others and to put other people's needs ahead of our own. We talk about a lot of that. And so, which is interesting because we go back to the issue of Straw, where Ty Hinton's character, she is in a service level position with a Black male supervisor, but there's other Black women who are in that position. So that's another interesting theme running through this film about women who are in those pink collar jobs. They tend to be underpaid. They tend to work on their feet. I mean, those women were standing up. I never saw them sit down in an office job. And so that's sort of the pink collar job issue. And we're talking about emotional contagion.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, everybody, my name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm here with my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and we're talking about the Tyler Perry movie Straw. And it really, we felt that this was something that would be worth having a deep dive with a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work on this topic. In case you don't know, Dr. Alicia has been doing this for a very long time. She's a certified trauma expert, as well as a person that trains therapists on how to actually get their license to become therapists. That's how good she is. And so if you want to learn more about what Dr. Alicia does, her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. So you can visit coachingwithdralicia.com. And also, if you want to receive, because we believe in solving problems and supporting people, if you want to get information and support from Dr. Alicia sent to you via text the word love to the number 87948. Text love to 87948. And so I want to ask you about this before I go to the next theory. Babe, it's my wife. I'm calling her Babe, Dr. Alicia, whatever. So,
Wait, what are we supposed to be? Can I just say something? I don't know. Okay, so it sounds like you want me to be the professional expert. So this is not really a pillow talk. This is more like an interview. See, I had in my mind when we started, this would be a pillow talk, and I can just kind of talk candidly. So now you're putting me into this. I'm a therapist now. So okay.
Well,
now
I think that you can do both, right? You could be,
I can do both. I can do pillow
you look
talk
at, I mean, think
mode. I
about it.
got two different modes. Pillow
Yeah,
talk
I
mode.
get it. Yeah.
And
Well,
then
maybe
I'm doing an interview.
maybe it's like Dr. Bryant mode. Dr. Bryant's not a real therapist, but Dr. Bryant is relatable, right? So maybe you could be the relatable Black woman to have whatever role you want to
be
take is
Dr.
totally up to
Bryant.
you. Well, no
Okay.
disrespect to Dr. Bryant. Let's not get into that. All right.
No,
So
I respect her. I just
let's talk about this. Okay. So
I got two.
one of the things that I was thinking about that I wanted to ask you about is it seems like there's not. So yeah, you're right. I am asking you. You're the expert, so I want to
Are you
really ask
asking
you.
me? Because I do have some. I have some pillow talk comments, and then I wrote down. But then I also have some therapist comments I can make.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about this? You make whatever comment you feel comfortable with, and I'll ask.
Okay. All right.
I'll just. I mean, I believe me. You know, I got opinions, and if anybody wants to hear my opinions, go to drboycetv.com. I talked about this movie for an hour and a half. Not so much about the
Oh,
film, but about the trauma. Yeah, yeah. But
okay.
I can throw in my opinions if you don't feel comfortable. But I wanted to give you
No,
a chance
I feel comfortable doing
because here,
whatever.
well, right. Because here's the thing, right? I think that healing has to happen, right? I think that instead of us having films that immortalize and glorify the idea of Black female suffering forever,
Okay.
like you are a Black woman, your life supposed to be hard, and we're just gonna watch movies about it and cry about it. I'm the guy that just says, okay, maybe we can also do something about it, right? I
Okay.
don't want to see my sister suffering. I when I see the problem, for example, of single Black mothers, I see it also from a statistical standpoint. All the data shows that the lowest net worth in America is that of a single Black mother with children. So my question then becomes, well, how do we create a community full of single mothers? What are the men doing wrong? What are the women doing wrong? What is the community doing wrong? Then also, when I see her struggle, this movie was all about money. I could take this and break this into 10 finance classes because this movie wasn't about nothing but money. Tell me if y'all agree. Tell me if you saw the movie Straw. All it was about was money. If she was financially secure, she wouldn't be in there pulling a gun out of the bank. If she had a trust fund left by her daddy, she wouldn't be pulling a gun out to cash her check at a bank. If she had a husband that had good money coming in, she wouldn't be pulling out a gun at a bank. If she'd had a certain kind of, if she had her own business or a stock portfolio, she wouldn't be pulling a gun out of a bank. So, what is it about being a Black female or Black people? Period, not Black women. I'm talking about. I know brothers like this too. What is it about being Black that makes us believe that we're not capable of being financially prepared, so that when hard times come, we're ready to deal with those? Like, what is it about being Black that makes us think that suffering is the default condition of a Black person in America? Please say what you'd like to say on that. I'm not even going to frame it as a question, but this is the question I have just generally for
Yeah,
anybody.
you just have, I mean, there's no answer to that question, right? Okay, so I'm gonna make a pillow talk comment. I'm switching over to wife. Okay. I want to know, what is the point of this movie in Tyler Perry's mindset? Like, what was he thinking about? Like, what if I could interview Tyler Perry, I would say, why did he feel the need to tell this particular story in this particular way and not have any healing? Like, do you give us an hour and a half of just one terrible thing happen over and over again, the trauma porn, I call it, and not have anything transitional happen, not have character development, not have somebody jump in and say, oh, let's have this character move and transition and then start off up here, go down, come back up again, have us feeling good at the end of the movie? That would be a point to the whole thing. What's he trying to do? Or is he trying to do is be on constant replay to tell this story of ain't no good Black men out there? Because I didn't see Black men really seen in a way that was loving. I didn't see one Black man in that film that was caring, that was considerate, that really like reached out and stepped in and, other than this police officer sitting there ready to arrest her. Like, I didn't really see all of that developed in this film. So I didn't, there wasn't enough pieces or elements to make it seem, number one, realistic. And number two, she never even thought about calling the father of this baby. If the baby has really been in some terrible hospital, seemed like there'd be more than just her at that hospital. I don't know. It just, to me, I feel like there were so many other pieces And it was just oversimplified storyline, not as much depth as a movie such as Sinners. And I think, so I got another comment about that, but I'll let you jump in. I got pillow talk comments too.
Well, I think that with this film, because I know this was a finance movie, and this was a movie about sociology and psychology. I too am wondering. I'd love to ask Tyler, like, what was the goal? Right? Was the goal to simply make sure these stories get told? Well, first of all, I don't really know a lot of. I don't think I know anybody. Give me a yes if you would agree with me on this. I don't think any of us knows a single person who, all within like a 6 hour period, was cussed out by their landlord, hit by a car, had a cop threaten to blow her head off, lost her child to Child Protective Services, got evicted, got robbed, and then shot two people. Can you agree with me that none of us in this room knows a single person this has gone through or who's gone through something like this? Now, I know it's a movie. I know that it's dramatic for sure. But I think that just sort of like just trauma dumping on the audience in that way, I get it. You're manipulating emotions, right? Motion pictures are not motion pictures. They're actually emotion pictures. So the goal of filmmaking in many cases is to do as much as they can to get an emotion from you. They want you scared, they want you to laugh, they want you to cry, they want you to be shocked, etc. And I think that, at the end of the day, I think the question for Tyler would be, okay, so was this just basically about the manipulation of the emotions of the audience so you can make sure that you make enough money on this film? And I'm not mad at him for making money, but I don't know. For example, if I know somebody got raped and all they can think about is the fact that they got raped, does it really help them? And I want you to answer this as a therapist, as a good therapist. Does it help them if I say, hey, let me show you this other film about somebody getting raped? Oh, here's another video clip I saw. This lady got raped just like you. Here, look, like, do you think that would, am I helping that person or damaging that person? Like, what am I kind of doing in that situation?
Well, here's what happens. If you've experienced developmental trauma or situational trauma, such as a sexual assault, like you described, you can come out of that when you're unhealed. You start to see the world as unsafe. And when we were watching the film, what I said to you was everything we see plopped on that film is a representation of everything going on inside of Tyler Perry. He has an experience, maybe spoke to people, maybe interacted with people, talking about his life growing up. He sat in a room by himself and thought up these characters based on something connected to him. And he decided that he was going to tell this story so bad. By the way, this movie was shot in 4 days. I listened to an interview quickly with Taraji P. Henson, and she said she had something else going on and she could shoot. They shot this movie in 4 days. So it's a representation, a very quick turnaround of a representation of all the things happening within Tyler Perry, writing the script, doing all of that. So it makes me wonder how he sees the world. It is an unsafe place for Black women. And I'm going to show you over and over again in every single one of my films and every single one of my TV shows that the world is unsafe for Black women. And that is what's happening in for him. And so I don't know his experiences. I haven't talked to him, but I know what he said. I know he's had some very painful things happen to him. I know one thing, definitely he didn't even have to say that, because I know he did that, because that is what he's saying. And he thinks that by telling this story, he is working something out for other people. But honestly, by telling the story over and over again, this theme, he's working out something for himself.
Well, everybody, by the way, I'm talking to Dr. Alicia Watkins, and you listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins, and my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. She's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. I'm a finance professor. And so the movie Straw by Tyler Perry was very interesting because this movie was all about things that are addressed in therapy in terms of trauma, things like that. And Dr. Alicia is certified in trauma. And also, it was very financial. This movie was a masterclass in economic preparation and the consequences of not having economic preparation. And so, anyway, if you're happy here and you want to stay, I know we're going to challenge a lot of people's thinking, but if you want to stay, first of all, I hope you're doing well. And also, I'd like to ask if everybody could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share. Make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. We believe in elevating conversations. Our goal isn't just to gossip about things that are happening. We really want to see if we can make progress as a community. So feel free to take a look at what we got going on here and to follow Dr. Alicia. You could text the word love to the phone number 87948. So I want to lay out another theory for you based on what therapists and psychologists might say about a movie like Straw. Now, first off, you mentioned earlier that this movie could be a reflection of what's in the mind of Tyler Perry. I got evidence of that. I have evidence that this is coming from the mind of Tyler Perry, and here's my evidence. You ready? You ready? Okay. So my evidence is that when I looked up who wrote the movie, who are the writers, plural, for the movie Straw. I didn't look up writer. I didn't say who wrote it. I said, who are the writers for the movie? So, I mean, it's the number one movie on Netflix. It's a massive multi-million-dollar blockbuster featuring extremely interesting and talented actors and actresses. And so clearly there must be like a team of writers that wrote this blockbuster film being seen by millions of people. And what came back to me, and I checked all this. I checked some different sources. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I saw written by Tyler Perry, directed by Tyler Perry, and produced by Tyler Perry. So when you say this came from the mind of Tyler Perry, that's your evidence. This came right out of the mind of Tyler Perry. So that's a lot of power for one man to have. If this man has mental health issues, which I don't know if he does. I don't know him like that.
You can't say.
Yeah, I only talked to him at one time. When he did call me, he was very nice on the phone call. I want to keep reiterating that because I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing the brother. But I'm really having a hard time figuring out what the explanation might be as to why he doesn't have more people in the writer's room. I mean, it seems to me. Y'all tell me if I'm.
I know what it is, boys.
Well,
I really do.
Hold on, wait. Let me just finish this point real quick, babe, and then I promise you, it's all yours. I want to know. I want everybody else to kind of help me with this. Do you agree with me when I say that maybe the brother should, if you're telling all these important stories about Black women, for Black women, wouldn't you expect him to have a lot of Black women in the writer's room? I just can't imagine writing entire films with multiple Black female characters and being like, oh, I'm every woman. I get it. I know Tyler. Let's just be clear. We know Tyler. He probably likes dudes as much as women do. That's what is coming out. But it's been so obvious for a long time. And I'm not judging. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not criticizing. But I'm saying, isn't there something strange about that? How does that feel? You can speak on this as a therapist, Black woman.
You have a thought about this. Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Please go ahead, babe.
I think it's about control. Because if it is in fact true that he had all these traumatic experiences growing up, and not to say that his whole entire childhood was awful, but maybe he had moments where there were things that were unprocessed for him, that was scary for him, that he didn't, that he has some lingering stuff happening. To me, it's all about control. And you wouldn't have another writer in the room if you feel like you have to control everything. You have to control the writing, the storyline. You have to have total control. And that makes sense because people who've been traumatized early on it would be very difficult for them later in life to be able to collaborate with somebody, to be able to compromise, to be able to be flexible. You want to control everything and every aspect, to be the writer, the producer, the director. You have enough money to do that and you can't work with other people. I think it's because this story is so deep, sensitive to him that he can't have. It's like his baby. He can't have anybody infringing on it or touching it or making comments about it. He's probably up at night looking at reviews to see. He's probably angry and upset. This is what I'm imagining based on what I know about people who live in the world that's unsafe for them. They're going to have movies and shows that are unsafe for other people because it's a representation of the experiences that he has, that he thinks that he can connect with other people with, but not to have anybody else in that writing room. That is all about control.
Is that defined as trauma bonding? Like I'm relating to you because I'm talking about like horrible things that we probably both went through, or would that be the wrong explanation?
Well, trauma bonding happens a lot in toxic relationships, but I think that what I'm kind of referring to is, the fact that Tyler Perry and even Lee Daniels, a lot of the stuff that he puts out, we've talked about his movies.
Oh my God.
And let's just face it. We know that Taraji P. Henson really got her start on Empire, the Lee Daniels film. So she was Cookie or whatever. And I was listening to an interview by her right before I came on here. And she said that movie was premiered in Paris, Russia, and Germany. The whole world is looking at this character Cookie. And that's their entrance to the experiences of Black people in America. That's what they think of us. Just think about that for a second. That Cookie got her famous. That was her crossover role that it translated to all of these different cultures all across Europe and everything. Cookie is her famous role.
So you think that Cookie? I mean, you didn't like the Cookie character? Did you watch a lot?
I didn't watch Empire, so I don't know. I just know that I saw clips of it. So, but I'm just sitting here saying, wow, I don't know if Cookie represents me.
Do you think that it's the obligation of Tyler Perry though, or Lee Daniels, or anyone to represent all Black women, or just represent the women that they are familiar with? I mean, I agree with you. Go ahead. But I agree with you. I think Lee Daniels has some significant mental health problems. And I remember Don Lemon went on the Tom Jordan Morning Show to try to beat me up pretty bad. I mean, that's what they try to do. It doesn't work. But he was very upset because I had written an article, kind of just saying that Lee Daniels is a person that has significant mental health issues. And I don't even want to repeat the stories that he shared in terms of his worldview and the things the things that have gone through his head. And I said, this man is not a person that should be making films and movies that are allegedly depicting Black people, because it's going to come from a source of extreme mental illness. I just remember him saying something to the effect of like, I wanted to sleep with as many people as possible, hoping that I would catch AIDS and die. I remember him saying, my children have read Anne Frank 3 times, but they never read Roots once. He had the boyfriend that was Jewish, and apparently that's, that helps you get ahead in Hollywood. And he talked about his sister being an overweight welfare queen on crack or something. It was something like that, right? And it's like, okay, so you had these experiences that are just kind of crazy. Most Black people don't have that experience. It does not mean that we have not seen relatives on drugs. I know I have. I have my own biological father. It does not mean that we haven't seen relatives on welfare or seen members of the gay community or whatever it is that you have experienced. But when you're just vomiting on screen and just throwing up anything that represents the stereotypical image that your white bosses want to see, right? They love that. Remember, they didn't give Denzel a single damn award when he played Malcolm X, but they wanted to give him every award imaginable when he played that asshole on Training Day. When he was a corrupt, dirty cop that used the word nigga over and over and over again, he suddenly became a hero to the white community. But when he played Malcolm X, they ignored it. They ignored it. They did not acknowledge it at all. I think this speaks to
Okay.
what we're up against in terms of imagery. I'm gonna
All right.
actually
So
let you. I'm gonna let you answer the question, and don't get
yeah,
freaked out because I'm gonna run to the bathroom while you answer. So don't
I
stop
am
and
getting freaked out.
don't
What's
stop
the
and say
question?
where did Boyce go? You want me to give you a question, babe? So you have something to talk about, or
Well,
you
I
want to just
got
talk?
something to say, but give
Okay,
me the
go ahead and
question.
say it, and I'm gonna run to
No,
the
give me
bathroom
the
while you talk.
question. What's the question? So I
Okay,
have something else to say.
all right. So it's not a question. I'm gonna give you another theory. So here's another theory, and I want you to elaborate on this theory if you have anything to elaborate on. It's it's called cultivation theory, and it's from Gerbner and Gross, 1970s.
Cultivation. I never heard of cultivation theory.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
let me hear it.
this relates to whether or not watching a traumatized woman in a Tyler Perry movie has an impact on the viewer, and we're trying to get to the bottom of this. So, cultivation theory, the core idea is that prolonged exposure to certain media messages cultivates distorted worldviews. That if you're watching the same images over and over and over again, it's going to affect how you view the world. Give me a yes or no if you agree with that. Everybody in the chat, answer in the chat. Yes or no. Do you think that the media you watch affects the way you see the world? And so basically the implication is that constant exposure to Black female pain and dysfunction may not actually heal it. It may actually normalize it, leading viewers to believe that suffering is an expected part of Black womanhood. Please, I'm gonna let you take it from there, baby. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Go ahead.
I still feel funny when you leave. Okay, so I think this is interesting that this film, Straw, became very, very popular after the film Sinners. And if y'all know, y'all can go and look at, I've done several videos about the film Sinners. That was an amazing film. We saw black women in a very powerful position. We saw black men in a very powerful position. We saw the dynamics of racism. We saw, we saw such great imagery and music and all of these wonderful things with Sinners. And I happen to wonder if Straw was kind of like a neutralizer psychologically. When we talked about cultivation theory, if maybe Straw became so popular now and promoted so heavily that it was used as a way to neutralize a brilliant film like Sinners. Now, you want to talk about a film that's my type of film? It's a movie like Sinners, where I think Straw just kind of, to me, neutralizes Sinners. The impact of Sinners. We have to understand that movies have an impact on your subconscious mind. And we left Sinners feeling empowered. We left Sinners feeling like we can outsmart white people. We left Sinners looking at, the impact of all of this imagery and, all of this. You want to talk about economics? I mean, Sinners talk about economics, but from a more powerful position for Black people. And then Sinners just kind of cuts the energy of Sinners down to almost zero. That's what I think. So yeah, I agree with the cultivation theory.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of feel like and I hate being the hater, or sounding like the hater, or sound like somebody who isn't going along with the crowd. So rather than asking the crowd to change their opinion about the movie, I'd rather ask the crowd to consider that maybe the reason we have not moved past easily fixable problems, right? Like problems of financial insecurity are very easily fixed if you listen to the right people. Part of the reason maybe we haven't moved forward is because we've been trained to just sit in our dysfunction. Right? We've been trained to be very passive and to just sit and sort of absorb the pain that the world has for us instead of actually being diligent enough to say, okay, how do we fix this? How do we prepare? How do we heal? Right. And so I think I'd feel better about the movie if as much energy is put into healing as there was into simply dwelling on or reflecting on the problem in the first place. I think there's a whole massive multi-billion-dollar industry built around Black suffering.
The last scene of the film, Boyce. Okay, by the way, I'm getting into pillow talk mode here. Boyce was like sleep through like 5 or 10 minutes of the movie. You fell asleep. It was so hilarious.
Well,
But
once
you
I got
didn't miss anything. The thing is, you
right.
didn't miss anything when you did fall asleep, you know. And I thought that was really kind of fascinating. And I really think that wait, I forgot the point I was gonna make. Oh God, I forgot what I was
Well,
gonna say.
let me
About you falling asleep.
while you bring the point back, let me tell you, I did go to sleep. Because after a while, it was like it was
Oh, I
predictable.
got it. I got it now.
But it was predictable. I predicted in the very beginning. I was talking to Nana, my mother-in-law, and I said, "Yeah, watch. I bet you about 10 really horrible things are going to happen to her right in a row." And I said, "Okay, so now what's going to happen is her car. It's raining, so her car is probably going to break down. I didn't know she was going to get hit, but I knew that something was going to happen. I knew that she was probably going to. I didn't know she was going to get robbed." But I knew something bad would happen at the bank, and I knew something bad would happen with her child. Her child's going to get sick, or they're going to take her child away, or something like that. And I said, oh, and also when she gets back to work, her boss is going to fire her because she's going to just be 100% asshole and cuss her out and fire, throw her out. And I said, oh, by the way, by the time she gets home, her landlord's going to evict her because that would be the full trauma dump. Like Tyler, like you got to go through the whole, like every single thing in her life that could go bad or good. Every single thing has to go bad because we gotta create a lifetime of pain in 25 minutes or less.
Okay, now I remember.
So we can then understand why she had the gun in the bank. That's what I was.
I remember what I was gonna say now. Okay, so you had left because y'all don't know. Boyce had enough. By the end of the film, like the last 5 minutes, you missed the last like 5 minutes. Do you know that the last scene of the film is Taraji P. Henton's character being handcuffed and taken to the police car, and that was like the last scene, and she's being taken away. No transition. A better film if Tyler Perry were to let go of some control and to allow a therapist into that writing room. And instead of telling these stories where you're trauma dumping everything in, one thing I would advise for him is to maybe end the film with maybe her being released from prison, maybe her getting the healing and the therapy, and we see a follow-up where she's been able to get back on her feet. If he really cares about telling a wonderful story and actually helping the Black community, that would be the most beautiful transitional piece that would be beautiful for the audience to view this, but also beautiful for him to dig into what does this character look like when she's healed, instead of portraying over and over again damaged individuals, unidimensional, never ever like Straw 2. Thank you so much, Nedra. Straw 2 needs to happen if he really cares about Black people. He want to make Black millionaires so bad. I think what he should do is create 1 million Black people that's healed. That would be wonderful if he would infuse something healing in these characters and add more dimension to them, add more believability, and really connect with his audience in a way that's meaningful. I know he wants to do this, but he has got to stop with 2 hours of nonsense. I'm sorry, 2 hours of like sweaty Taraji. We had to see Taraji P. Henton drenched in sweat for 2 hours.
She was sweating in the first she got out of bed. She was sweating when she got out of bed.
Somebody needed to hand her a tissue. I mean, if you're the lady at the bank, Sherry Shepherd's character should have been like, babies, wipe the sweat off your face. She had to drench. I mean, just come on. He's more interested in being stuck in his trauma than he is in growing and healing, and we see it in his movies.
Well, by the way, everybody, you listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. Dr. Alicia also appears regularly with the ladies on Fly Nubian Money. And today we're doing kind of a quick little analysis of the Tyler Perry movie Straw, and not hating on Tyler, not trying to say it's anything negative, but just trying to be honest, being honest about the fact that I don't know about you, but I'm sick of the pain. I'm sick of us
He's
thinking
stuck in it.
that being black means you're not supposed to move forward. I'm sick and tired of us thinking that being black means you're always supposed to be struggling and hurt. I'm sick and tired of us thinking that being black means you complain about the problem and don't fix it. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about just dealing with pain. We're talking about healing from pain. So don't just deal. Go out and heal. How about
He
that
is
for
a
a bar? I
billionaire.
got bars. Hold on, wait. You interrupted my bars, babe. Did I? Was that bars? Instead of just deal, go out and heal. Because you dealing, you should be healing.
I'm adding to what you're saying because I'm sitting here thinking, here he is, a billionaire, stuck in a pain cycle that he feels like he has to go by himself alone in the room. That tells you right there that there's trauma. That you have to be alone with yourself in a room. You can't connect with anybody else to help you move through it. He is on it's analysis of paralysis, or paralysis of analysis. Don't have me quote things, but y'all get what I'm saying. He is a man who is clearly stuck and can't move past it. He needs, and all the money in the world can't protect him from what he's trying to run from. And that's the other side of dealing with his pain to a place of healing. He is not there.
Well, you know what's interesting is
because if he was there, he'd be able to write about it.
Right. Well, let's just say that I don't want this to be like a beat up on Tyler Perry fest, right? So I want to make sure
it's a wake up call for Tyler Perry, but for all of us that's watching this, that knows what it's like to be alone by yourself. It's from all of us. It ain't about Tyler Perry. Go ahead.
Let me show you something, babe. Hold on. All right, so here is the post. It was, I guess, a few years ago, and he basically wrote my writer's room, and in his writer's room, it's just him, and he says, to the millions of you who are loving what I do and watch my shows every week, don't worry, I ain't stopping. Don't forget the haves and have-nots returns on OWN, etc. And what's interesting is that there are a lot of writers in here. Chris Brown, I don't think it's the real Chris Brown. He says, I'm an aspiring writer. How can I become part of your team? I would love to work for your company. Another person says, I'm a writer who loves your work. Doesn't matter that I'm white. Next person says, how can I be a part of your writer's room? And so you can keep going down the list of interesting comments. Somebody says, I don't like this one. Everyone should have a writer's room like this. So what I will say is that I definitely think we can agree that Tyler Perry, if he's writing about black women, there should be black women in the writer's room. It reminds me of how white people will write a black movie and not let any black people write the movie, and then the dialogue becomes weird and it becomes based on blackness through the eyes of white people. So I think that what you're getting when you see a Tyler Perry movie, apparently, unfortunately, is, black women through the eyes of a gay black man, right?
Or black women through the eyes of a man who, on some subconscious level, wishes he was a black woman.
Well, he does. I mean, he puts on that Medea dress quite a lot. And when I did talk to him 10 years ago, he told me he was going to get rid of Medea, which obviously that was not true. I didn't say anything about it. I didn't say like, why are you putting on that dress? He just said it. He volunteered the information and he was very nice. And I did a tour of his studio after that. And I reached out and when I was in town, and he had a second in command do that, which I thought was a tremendous sign of respect. So I wanted to say this. I feel like deep down Tyler tries to be a good guy. I really believe that. And I think that he is a person that's just been through some things that he shouldn't have gone through. I think that he's a net positive on society as opposed to a negative. I don't feel that his movie, because there's so many people that love his movies, and I love the people that love his movies, and I want to understand what they love about them. But also, I hope that those who can hear that will also hear me when I say that maybe it's time for us to raise the bar a little bit. Let's just be honest. The acting ain't nobody winning no Academy Awards out of that movie, right? Now mind you, it was amazing to see Tiana Taylor in her just evolve, just growing into this amazing actress. Tiana Taylor, I think Tiana Taylor, I love you, baby, but I think that you might agree with me that Tiana Taylor is probably one of the most beautiful women in all of Hollywood. Now I ain't gonna try it. Now she's not as
Well,
beautiful as you, but
listen, this ain't no comparison. I think she is. Boyce, you can always point out beautiful women. I'm okay with that as long as you don't act on it. But
okay.
yeah, she's
So
gorgeous.
Tiana, don't be trying to push up, Tiana. You might get beat up. So yeah, but Tiana did. I mean,
That
and I
that
thought,
wig is bad. That's a
well, you know
bad
what,
wig.
the wig is not, it's not her greatest, but I like, I thought she did a good job. I mean, Tiana, I see with her is I see a person who's really trying hard to be this sort of all-in-one entertainer. I've seen her sing, I've seen her dance, I've seen her act. She's is gorgeous enough to be a model. I'm happy for her. I was really happy for her to have this role as the police captain in the movie. I'm glad Tyler Perry saw that talent, and I think that she showed it. I think she did. There was some awkward acting in the movie. I don't include her in that group. So there's good things to say about the film, right? There was just beautiful black people that, like, you saw the guy who played the man who was married to Aretha Franklin, but he was on
Thurman,
a
is
different
it
world.
Thurman something?
Yeah, Colonel Taylor. It was Colonel Taylor.
Colonel Taylor,
Yeah,
Thurman.
now he reappears in the movie as the biggest asshole on earth, right? He's like, I'm gonna fire you and I'm gonna cuss you out at the same time and remind
And
you I don't give a.
Sinbad was in it too.
Yeah. But here, let's go back to Colonel Taylor before we talk about Sinbad. So Colonel Taylor, his character, it was like too much. It was too much. Like you really need her boss to be just such a blatant asshole that he's gonna fire her and remind her, I don't give a damn about you. F you. I've never seen him act like that in a movie before. I mean, he was 100% pure asshole. And to me, that speaks to what you were talking about earlier about the characters not really having sort of that nuance.
Unidimensional characters.
They're,
Yeah.
they're just one dimensional. Like you are an asshole straight from the depths of hell, and you gonna fire people and cuss them out while you firing them. And then Sinbad's character, it was great to see Sinbad, right? So Tyler Perry has this respect for for some of these black actors and actresses that have been sort of abandoned by Hollywood in the 1990s. And I saw that when I went through his studio, and I was there for 2.5 hours. The tour was really thorough. Uh, I saw him with images and just sort of paying homage to all these black Hollywood figures that we grew to love, that have been forgotten. You saw it with Cicely Tyson and all that. I think he deserves to be honored for that. I think he deserves credit for that. But that does not mean you cannot say, hey, man, okay, something has to change with some of these films. I know they're making big money, but at some point, money can't be everything. I think that there's a type of abuse that occurs when you take a traumatized person. I mean, process it like this. Here's what I'm make my point like this. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you agree with this comment. I argue this, and you could tell me, babe. I'm gonna let you talk because I want you to respond to this. If every black person in America was psychologically healed, like meaning all of us went to the therapy, all of us did the work, all of us overcame the trauma, all of us made ourselves healthy and whole, would there be an audience for movies like this? Like if every person in the black community, let's say we were all healed, we worked on our financial security so we weren't in financially desperate situations, we had healthy families so that black women and black men were getting married again and forming families, would there be a movie? Would there be an audience for this kind of stuff? And I asked that question because I think we have to sort of openly ask, are we building an economy that's built on the back of black trauma? Right? You can get to the point, it's like the healthcare system. Healthcare system, the reason they don't cure diseases is because there's no money in curing the disease. There's only money in managing the disease, acknowledging the disease, giving you a pill for the disease, so you keep buying the pills. That's annual recurring revenue, ARR. So is the Tyler Perry film model built on an empire that Medea built, where there's annual recurring revenue built on on sort of visibly acknowledging black trauma and exposing it to the traumatized people who are going to watch the movie and say, oh my God, I felt that character. I went through it with her. Oh, that movie just affected me. I love it. When's the next one coming out? What do you think? I almost feel like there's like an addiction to that. What do you think, babe?
I think that all of us, even if we're healed in our trauma, all of us are on a hero's journey. Y'all, check out Joseph Campbell. We are on a hero's journey. And in your hero's journey, you are going to experience pain. That is what you agreed to when you are a sentient human being down here in this earth, in our flesh bodies, living life. And I'm taking it to the woo-woo world, boys. I know this might make you feel uncomfortable, but we are here to learn, to explore, to experience pain. Because that's how we learn as human beings. No pain, no gain. I want to see more gain. There has been too much of the pain. She's arrested and taken away. Pain, pain, pain. But what's the point of it if we don't see characters go through a transition? Those are movies that really feel us up. Because as parents out there, all y'all parents out there, you can't protect your children from pain, but what you can do is love them when they're in your household. What you can do is listen to them when they go out into the world and they experience pain, because inevitably they will. When they come into your household, give them a loving place of which to process their pain. You don't have to step on them to teach them a lesson. People's whole childhood don't need to be, well, I'm going to show you how bad it is because you're going to learn how bad it is out in the world. I think we need to get away from that. I think we need to be a loving place, households from which children, you boys, my mom, anybody that comes into the fold, I want the fold of my household to be a place of warmth, acceptance, and a place where you can talk about whatever pain you're going through. That is how people heal. Having a place to process it. That needs to be reflected in film. Film is about the hero's journey. And all writers, they study mythology, they study Joseph Campbell, they study Carl Jung. Really good writers understand the hero's journey. I would suggest all of us to understand that and to recategorize the unfortunate things that happen to us. Because sometimes, like my dad used to tell me, sometimes you win, sometimes you're going to lose. He used to say that to me. You can't win them all, and you're definitely not going to lose them all. But I've always had a place where I can talk, because my parents were therapists. So I always had a place where I can complain and talk, and I feel so comfortable expressing my thoughts and feelings. That is what we need to do with our hero's journey.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I can say more about it, but that's all. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is, before we finish up, I'm going to ask everybody to hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm a finance professor. My wife, Dr. Alicia, is a professor of social work and also a licensed therapist. And we're talking about the Tyler Perry movie Straw and the psychological implications of that film. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. And also, if you'd like to meet up with Dr. Alicia and see what she does, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. And also, you can text the word love to the phone number 87948. So text love to 87948. And also, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify and look up my name, Boyce Watkins, you can take a look at some of the content that we have on Spotify. Our goal is to support intelligent Black media. So if you believe that Black people should have access to all forms of media, even media like this, then go to Spotify, look up my name, and have our back. We will never be as big as Tyler Perry and Medea, but we can do our thing as scholars. No, I think that.
I think we will.
I you know what, and it's okay. Well, I don't look at it as a competition, but I think that I think that there are lots of people in our community that appreciate intelligent dialogue, and I represent them. But I'd be lying if I said that I feel that these people are the majority. I think that there are more people who look at scholars maybe as these uppity people who are judging other people, as opposed to actually looking at as deep intellect as something that's really aspirational. I think that media, racism in media has kind of dumbed down the culture a little bit. And so there are a lot of people who like it when you, like I had that problem when I left Syracuse University and I started doing financial content for Black people. I had people that were just basically saying like, why are you being so complex? Like, make it simple. So there'd be some simple idea where I'd be like, well, everybody knows this. And I would just throw it out super simple. And people loved it more when it was overly simplified than they did when I made things more complex. Now, it doesn't mean that people weren't able to absorb complex ideas, but I think there's like maybe an intimidation or something like that. Like you saw what happened when Kwame Brown, the basketball player, just for some reason he just hated me. I didn't even know why. And you mentioned something where you say, well, maybe he had a bad experience in the public school system, so he thinks all professors are evil and terrible and bad. And I was like, okay, maybe that's it, because I didn't even understand what the guy. I was like, what are you so mad at me about? I don't even know you. But at the same time, it's like, so yeah, I'm not trying to be Tyler Perry. Because I think also there's a lot of ugly trade-offs you have to make to become a Tyler Perry, right? My goal is not to fit into the culture. My goal is to help the culture evolve. And I think that, when you're talking about stuff that's out there that just says, okay, Black people are dysfunctional, let's give them some dysfunction. Black people like sugar, let's give them some sugar. Black people like fried chicken, let's give them fried chicken. That's an easy pathway to make a lot of money. You just give people what they want and they say thank you, and it's it. Whereas what's harder is when you say, I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm going to kind of go ahead and push you a little bit. I'm going to challenge you. I don't want to give you what you want. I'm going to give you what you need. I don't want you to have more dysfunction. I want to give you something functional. I don't want you to be unhealthy. I'm going to be the doctor that says, okay, let's go to the gym. Let's cut down the sugar, right? And not everybody wants that. Like there's an old saying that says everybody wants change, but only a small percentage of people are actually willing to work for it. And so I like the people that want to work for change, that are just a little bit tired of it, that just say, you know what, I want a better life, man. This is for the birds. And those are my people, right? And that's not the majority, but that's cool, because those people that do get it, that are right there with me, they're super, super loyal, and they're the kind of people I want to go to battle with, because they're willing to sacrifice and make an investment in order to move forward in their lives. That, because you can't have progress without sacrifice. You can't get around that. What are your thoughts on any of that?
No, I agree with all of it. I'm just sitting here taking it all in. Yeah, I mean, you do have to make that kind of sacrifice. And it's fun hanging out with people who are winners in that way. Not winners in terms of external, but winners in terms of like how you view the world and how you see pain and how you see it as just an opportunity to connect with other people. Because really, film in my classes as a professor of social work, I teach a lot through film. We watch movies because I want to create in the students empathy for what people uniquely go through. They watch films on, there's a film called The Better Life, and it talks about the world according to immigrants, people who come here from another country, and all of the struggles that they have. I want students to be empathetic to the people who are oppressed and marginalized, because that's what adheres to our our values and ethics. So film is a wonderful way to teach other people the intricacies and the lives of individuals that you would never know. So that's why I think film is so great. I do have something to say about healing, but I'll wait till the end to say that.
Well, let me ask you about this. So bring this in as we talk about. Let's move back to straw. And I was giving you some psychological theories that
give me some more.
Fact that it could be a little bit dangerous to constantly consume content that almost celebrates our trauma. Here's another theory. This is from the American Psychological Association, 2017.
Okay.
There's a study by the American Psychological Association that found that repeated exposure to racialized trauma through news or film can re-traumatize individuals, even if the events are dramatized. So even if the event is fake, you're still re-traumatized. So a key stat is that high media consumption of racial trauma was linked to increased PTSD symptoms, depression, and anxiety, especially amongst Black viewers. What I see with that, and I want you to jump in as the therapist, is it makes me think about what you said about the subconscious mind, and how the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and make-believe. The second thing it made me think about is I really want to encourage everybody out here, be real careful about taking in all that trauma through social media. Social media is increasingly over time linked to significant psychological problems and PTSD, everything else. And I don't want that to happen to people. What are your thoughts on that?
The fact is, we live in the safest world ever known to man. Can you believe that? We live in a world that is safer than it was 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago. We keep getting safe and safe. But the issue, the double-edged sword about progress, is that we hear about tragic things happening all over the world when normally you would only hear about things happening in your local community that really matter to you. We live, Boyce, me and you, we live in safe times, but we live in the safest community, probably one of the safest communities in the world. It's tragic to have anybody walking around feeling scared right now, especially anybody who lives in our safe neighborhood. Not to say that don't be aware of things. You're always going to be aware of things and protect yourself. But no, there's no reason for any of us, no matter where you live, actually, to wake up having to worry about safety issues because we're safe. People never live. We're living longer and healthier than we've ever lived before. And you have to kind of keep that into perspective, right? It's just like, because anybody who knows me knows I'm a coward when it comes to getting on airplanes. But I have to tell myself, Alicia, this is irrational because you are more likely to have an accident on your way to the airport than you do on an airplane. Like, I have to repeatedly remind myself of this because I don't want my fears of all these airplane crashes that I feel like are talked about all over. I don't want to be affected by that because I know that it's not real. Airplane travel is the safest form of travel. So I have to kind of remind ourselves of that. So that's what I encourage everybody to do, is just to know that is a fact. There are such things as facts, and that is one of them. And to tell yourself this, when these thoughts come to your head about worrying and what if this happens and what if that happens, y'all know y'all do it. What if that happens and what if this happens? You're wasting time worried about something that ain't even going to happen. Movies like this don't help.
Okay. I got another theory for you. This is, you probably know this one. This is from Hatfield, 1993, called Emotional Contagion. And the core idea is that viewers can catch the emotions of the characters. So if you witness intense pain, sexual assault, or abuse in films, it can literally affect your viewer's nervous system and mood long after the credits roll. So your mood, not only are your feelings being manipulated in the moment, it sounds like your overall mood, your happiness level is impacted when you walk out. And they do that on social media. I mean, remember when they revealed that Zuckerberg and Facebook were running tests to see what the mood of a person would become if they view negative content on Facebook feeds? Like, so these algorithms and these filmmakers are manipulating people's emotions, deliberately. What are your thoughts on some of that?
Well, my first article I published was about emotional contagion. Did you know that?
No, I did not. That's very nice.
It's my very first article, so y'all can look it up. I published it at Florida State University. So in our study, we looked at emotional contagion, and that concept was significantly correlated with rates of depression. So the more likely, some people are more susceptible to emotional contagion. And if you are one of those people who are very sensitive to that, you're also more prone to experience symptoms of depression as well. So it's something you need to keep in mind. And you need to psychologically protect yourself, emotionally protect yourself, feel balanced, give yourself affirmations. All of this wonderful mindfulness and spiritual things can actually be beneficial in helping you protect yourself from all of the things. You can't control everything that you come in contact with. So on some level, you do need to be protected.
Okay. So the next theory I want to run by you is something called racial battle fatigue. Smith, 2004, the core idea is that constant reminders of Black trauma, whether in real life or media, leads to fatigue, frustrations, or psychological exhaustion. So I want to ask everybody in the chat, give me a yes or no. How many of you feel just tired, like when you're seeing another police shooting, another thing to be mad about, Do you feel fatigue? Do you feel frustration? Like it's never going to go away. Like I'm mad all the time, or psychological exhaustion. Just like you just can't connect to so much trauma, so much pain. Anybody feel that way? Just scroll through social media, and they say it's specific to Black women. When media continuously emphasizes pain and betrayal in their relationships and communities, it can reinforce hopelessness and actually erode your emotional resilience. So trauma porn appears to be very dangerous in that way. What are your thoughts on that,
Oh
babe?
my God, that's so true. Like I live in a very safe neighborhood, but I'm emotionally connected to neighborhoods with predominantly Black individuals who have low income. Now there's some rich Black neighborhoods. I'm connected to that too, but I'm also really, really connected to like neighborhoods in which I grew up in, Gary, Indiana. I'm connected to Tuskegee, Alabama. Those are those two places raised me in the 80s. I was raised in Gary and I was raised in Tuskegee, Alabama. So how can I not be sensitive to things that happen to people who look like me and look like the people I love so closely connected to? So yeah, of course I'm going to get emotionally tired of seeing over and over again things that have happened in those two areas. I mean, the Tuskegee experiment,
Okay,
all of those syphilis experiment, all of that. So
but
yeah.
let me jump in though. They weren't talking specifically about what you see, what you actually see. I
Well,
think,
I'm tied
I
to it.
think, I
I'm
think,
tied to
right,
it.
right. I
Yeah.
think seeing it is different from turning on the 6 o'clock news in a city with 10 million people and hearing that somebody got murdered across town, and then walking around thinking that somebody's going to kill you. I saw this happen a lot when they started to really talk about Trayvon Martin and George Floyd and the Black men being killed.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many Black women I talked to who said, I'm just so scared when my son leaves the house that he's going to be killed by a cop. And
Mhm.
I can tell you with complete certainty, not one of those women lost their son to a cop. Not one. Now, that does not mean Black men don't get killed. More Black men get shot by other Black men than by police. It doesn't mean that we're the culprit or anything. It's not blaming anybody. It's just a fact. So I felt that when media decided to really talk about police shootings of Black men, you got to the point for a while where it sounded like the first thing that would come to mind with people would meet me as a Black man. They say, "Oh my God, all these Black men being killed by the police," and I'm like, "Well, I haven't even talked to a cop in 3 years." Like,
Mhm.
is that the only thing that comes to mind when you think about me? Is how many of us get killed by cops? I felt like that was a one-dimensional
Mhm.
perspective, and it wasn't even really completely accurate. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means like when you look at the city like Chicago and you go through the list of Black men being killed on a given day, it's a more nuanced story than that. That's what
And
I would.
truth be told, like sometimes I interact with white people and they're very, I mean, they don't, all of these fears that you can have in the back of your head, be like, most of the white people I interact with are just decent individuals anyway. Like they don't really, it's not like they're trying to take out, not always trying to take out their issues with Black people out on me or anybody in my family. I mean, contact theory is something that's really interesting. Like the more contact you have with other individuals and other cultures, the better able you are to understand. And I really do feel like right now is such a racially charged moment. And I just feel like we have to be conscious of how this sort of racism is hyped up in a way where I feel like it's trying to be divisive instead of bringing people together. But that's on my thought
Yeah, yeah,
about.
yeah. I mean, this is where my cynicism actually helps me.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
never assume white people love us as much as
On the
the
individual level. I'm talking about
right,
individual.
right. But
Yeah.
individual collectively or either otherwise,
Yeah.
I never grew up in a world thinking that the world was truly equal and truly fair. I just looked at the world for what it is, and I feel like if you do it that way, and you just say, yeah, they probably don't really care about you that much, then what it does is it takes away any expectation that somehow they're going to have some sort of love for me that they don't actually have. They don't care about me, but as long as you leave me alone, I'm okay, right? Okay, so let me move to the next theory. I'm gonna read another one. This
Okay,
is called.
this is good. I like this. Is ChatGPT giving you these theories?
I'm getting them from all over the place. You ready?
Uh-huh. Okay, let's see what
Post-traumatic
else. Hit me with it.
Listen. Post-traumatic media syndrome. This is proposed by Brian Davis and Ocampo, 2005. Post-traumatic media syndrome basically says that it reflects the emotional fallout from repeated exposure to traumatic content centered on one's racial group. So you can have post-traumatic media syndrome if you are consistently exposed to traumatic content centered on your racial group. So the result is that media becomes a source of psychological distress, not healing, especially when the trauma is not balanced by upliftment or resolution. And I think that's what you were saying
Thank
about
you.
that.
I was
You're
so
saying
talking
Tyler
about
Perry.
that earlier.
Yeah,
Aren't
yeah.
I smart? Hey, wait. Okay. Aren't I smart? I'm smarter than ChatGPT.
Well, if you're not using AI, then you're 10 years behind the rest of the world. So all right. So
I got my own internal AI. How about that?
Well, you got that too, but I got intelligence and artificial intelligence. So when you can intelligently use artificial
Human
intelligence,
Okay.
it creates a superpower. All right. So here's another one. This is a intersectional trauma and media representation from Crenshaw, 1991, and Hooks, 1992. And the theory is that Black women experience trauma at the intersection of race, gender, and class. So films that that repeatedly portray them as victims without depicting strength, healing, or complexity can reinforce societal oppression and internalized stereotypes. So it almost sounds like the movies don't really help. That basically when you're just showing the trauma and you're not talking about strength, healing, and complexity, that can actually reinforce societal oppression, make other people oppress you more, and also lead to more internalized stereotypes. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, we just talked about that earlier. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true. No, I mean, it's true. We just talked about, where's the transition? Like these movies, as Black people, we like to be entertained, I think, just like anybody else. But I want to see myself I want to see myself shown in a way that is a little more connected to my real life and connected to the life of the people that I know, not just, a whole bunch of traumatic things happening to us in 2 hours and then there's no upliftment. I mean, to see her go out. Y'all want to watch something that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen? Y'all check out Star Trek Discovery. Everybody watch that show. That's a Black woman that at one point she was in jail. Do you remember? Did you watch it with me, boys? At one point she was in jail. But guess what? She got out of jail. And what was she doing? Flying through space with her husband, with her man. And they were clearly Black people. She got braids in her hair. Remember that, boys? That show is beautiful. Star Trek Discovery. If you want to see, she's a Black female. She's a captain, but she's also a beautiful mate to. And at the end of you didn't watch the end of, because Boyce kept falling asleep on it. But at the end of the whole thing, she goes off. Yet in the end of the whole series, boys, guess what the end of the scene was? She wasn't taken away in handcuffs. She was taken away with her little man, her husband, and she grew up and they had children, and the child got into Starfleet and whatever. It is the most beautiful depiction of a Black woman I think I've ever seen. All Black people need to see it. And of course, you got to watch Deep Space Nine. Hello, from my homeboy from Gary, Indiana. I can't remember his name right now, but the guy who played Captain Sisko.
I know you're talking about.
Y'all, if I could create my own television network, I would immediately buy the rights to Star Trek Discovery, definitely the Cosby Show, because there were some wonderful things, and Star Trek Discovery. I would be playing that on repeat all over again. Avery Brooks, thank you, Amanda. But Avery Brooks, like it just, that's some of the things I would like to see us in, so that we can combat this race, gender, class. Yeah, she deals with a lot of that. It's subtle, but you see her overcome it, and it doesn't have an effect on her. Yeah, Discovery is on, I think it's on Paramount. right, boys?
Yeah, it's on Paramount.
It's on Paramount. Y'all, it's worth it. It's worth it to get Paramount Plus and watch those because all of Star Trek is on there. Yeah, Trekkie. Yes, Gwendolyn. Anyway.
Okay. All right. So let's do one more theory and then we'll be done.
Okay, one more theory.
There's another theory that might apply here, and this is desensitization and emotional numbing from Bushman
Yeah.
and Anderson, 2009. Repeated exposure to violent media reduces emotional response and empathy. So the long-term danger is that Black women may begin to emotionally disconnect from their own pain or accept dysfunction in relationships as normal. So when you're repeatedly exposed to all this pain, you just
Yeah.
kind of get to the point where you just give in and say that's just the way it is, and accept it. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It is called compassion fatigue. And that's something we talk about all the time with therapists who work with people who are in pain. Sometimes it is a protective mechanism for you emotionally dealing with that. It's just that you just get tired of hearing everybody's problems all day long, which is why I only see clients a couple of days a week. The rest of that time, I do not see clients on the individual level. I occupy my time with other things so that I don't get to the point where I have that compassion fatigue. And if I start feeling myself going, rolling my eyes and, then it's a signal to me that I need to take a break. But, that's one of the main reasons why I break up my week, where I only see clients only certain days of the week. The rest of those days I protect it for my own self-care because I want to be able to give all that I have to all of the people that I'm interacting with and trying to help. So yes, the emotional numbing, is a way of protecting yourself from just all of the stories that you hear and all of the dysfunction that's going on with you. Makes sense. This was fun, boys.
Yeah. I had a great time. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else gained something from it. This was a deep. This was fun. I know you didn't plan for a deep dive, but I figured it would be fun to go deep into.
I'm just here.
Yeah. Well, I figured you knew you had enough stuff on the top of your head that you could really create a good conversation on this topic, and I know that I think it's an important topic. I think that's something that is affecting so many of our mothers and sisters. Is something that all of us as a community should discuss because Black women matter in the Black community. Without Black women, we wouldn't exist. So, so I want to say thank you to everybody who hung out with us, who watched. I also want to let everybody know that you can go talk to Dr. Alicia directly if you are looking for a good therapist. For example, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, she has her book club every week, and you can be invited by texting the word love to the phone number 87948. And she has a healing haven. So after you finish watching the Tyler Perry movies and you remember how much stress there is in the world, just know it's a choice. It's a choice. You don't have to be in pain. We don't want you in pain. You don't have to suffer. We're here to help. I can help you on the financial. She can help you on the psychological. And in the Black Business School, we created the first ever Black financial therapy department that basically looks at these intersections between psychotherapy related issues and financial issues. And if you watch that movie Straw, that was our topic for today, that movie Straw was all about problems that could be cured with therapy and financial preparation. Tell me if you agree. Tell me if you get what I'm saying. Like literally, I watched this movie, and I want you, when you watch it, I want you to go through and I want you to count the number of times the topic of money comes up in this film. I want you to count how many times. I mean, the money was probably brought up in this film 50 times in the first 5 minutes. So if we prepare our daughters financially for the future, then money doesn't become a huge problem. If we talk about family and preparation and having, a good husband that's taking care of the kids and all this other stuff, money's not as much of an issue. If you teach kids about investing and economic preparation, then they'll be in good shape. So fix the money problem, and you fix a lot of the Black problem. If you fix the money problem and the therapy problem, you're probably fixing about 90% of the Black problem. So I can't be responsible for white folks though. They probably ain't never gonna like you that much, but it don't matter because I need you to just love yourself. Give me an amen in the chat if you agree. I hope everybody understands where we're coming from. All right, so have a good day, everybody. God bless you.
Wait, I got last thoughts.
Oh, I thought you were done. Go ahead, please.
No, I got final thoughts. Hold on. Okay, number one, you're a great host, Boyce. This was actually kind of fun doing this with you, so I gotta say that publicly. Hello. Okay, number two, I want to say one more thing. We saw this lady throughout this entire film walk around disempowered. She had, at no point in this entire film did she effectively stand up for herself. No place was she
Well, wait a
empowered.
minute, but she pulled out the gun. Isn't
I
that
said
so?
effectively.
Oh, effectively. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
She was in a place of such anxiety and such worry and begging and struggle. She struggled through this whole film, so much so that she had a psychological break where she detached herself from reality and she couldn't deal with what was happening in her reality. So I want to leave with that because I am going to talk about this in depth on my healing conversations on a Monday. So I just wanted to highlight that because I never got to say that part about the psychological break and the fact that I think you are such a good host.
Thank you.
Well,
I
now I'm
appreciate it.
done.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, y'all are a very good audience, and you're a very good spouse and a very good scholar, and I respect you a lot. So
What's that? I'm gonna record you saying that and play
well,
it back.
you better get out of here with that stuff. All right. So anyway, everybody have a good day, all of you. And by the way, if you Dr. Alicia does have books on things like financial trauma, stuff like that. So if you're interested in taking a look at any of this, just head over to drboycebooks.com, drboycebooks.com. We also have financial flashcards and workbooks for your kids. So you can train them on money related topics when they're young, so that they can avoid some of these problems that we think are unsolvable. All these problems are solvable, but I just argue that we got to listen to our thinkers as much as we listen to our celebrities. Like, don't just, people that are in the movies and on TV and all that, they're great people, but you also have a lot of people in your community that are super smart, super capable, people in the areas of law, engineering, science, mathematics. Just yesterday, actually, babe, I told you about that. I met with a single mom who had over $1 million in her stock portfolio because she'd been following me for years. She said her and her ex-husband have been following me for years, and she was doing really well financially. And I said, I'm so proud of you. She's over 50. I said, you could retire tomorrow. It's easy. I could show you exactly how much money you can make from selling stock options and all that. That's why she wanted to meet with me. And I just said, I just have to say, I'm super proud of the fact that you prepared. So many of us have problems because of a lack of preparation. So for everybody who values preparation, I salute you 100%. You're changing the narrative. You're eliminating the generational curse. You're fixing the problem, and your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren are going to benefit from your diligence. So anyway,
There's a healing force in all of us, even Tyler Perry. We have a force in us that wants to heal.
Yeah.
We don't want to live in trauma, all of us, on whatever unconscious level. We really want to heal. And I hope that Tyler Perry gets to that point and actually listens to some of the comments that people have made about the writing room and all of that. He has a healing force, or he wouldn't have posted just him sitting there, the lone person typing. Did he really think we would admire that? Or did he think that we would say, you need to open up and you need to let some people in? And it's going to be safe to do so. That's it.
Well, I'll say this, I don't have anything against Tyler Perry, but I'm probably biased because I did have that, that phone call, and he didn't have to call. He just called out of the blue, and he was gracious and decent, and I think that he wants to be a positive force in the world. And I think he can be. I think he has been, but I think also at the same time that having enough humility to be corrected at certain times, and to know that you can still make your money, but but sort of do things in a slightly different way. I'd love to see if he's interested in that kind of thing. And in fact, if Tyler sees this video, he's welcome to come in and defend himself. I have nothing against the brother. So anyway, y'all have a great day. God bless you. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.